Welcome back, folks. It is time for a podcast. But before that, let's get the business stuff out of the way. This next episode of the podcast is brought to you by me and Orion Design Group, my company. For those of you that know or may not know, I have a little product company that I've had for quite some time, and it's a little niche company doing products, and we do merch, and we do some hard goods, and we do some soft goods, primarily to support the law enforcement and military communities. We just released we did a release on a hoodie and a beanie, and the beanies have been sought after for quite some time because we originally did a prototype run of them right before COVID, and then everything went crazy and haywire with supply chain during COVID. For those of us that are in the manufacturing game, you know what I'm talking about. Things got pretty crazy, supply chain dried up, or things just got really super expensive. And then in the wake of the pandemic, we had the election nonsense, and so we just we preserved our resources to see kind of where things were going to fall, as most of us that were smart did. But now that the smoke is cleared and everything is good, we're turning the machine back on, and we're getting these beanies out finally. They are made in the USA. They are a merino wool poly blend with a nice brushed fleece liner in it, and they have our awesome logo on it. And so go check them out. Go get yourself one, because our stuff usually doesn't last that long. We usually burn through stuff pretty quick because we've got a pretty loyal core following that we've had for over a decade. So our stuff goes out the door pretty quick. So get yourself in there, get yourself a hoodie, and get in the pre-order, get yourself a cool hoodie, and get yourself a new beanie. We've got product to follow in the spring. Get over there and get yourself something. And in the meantime, I hope everybody had a great Thanksgiving and we're looking forward to our normal hiatus that we take every December every year. We hope that you guys do the same, relax, enjoy Christmas and going into the new year of 25. And we look forward to seeing you guys there after the smoke clears from the holidays. So have a great holiday season. And in the meantime, enjoy episode 136 with one of my best friends, Bryan Pickens, part 2.
Things are getting tougher when you can't get the top off the bottom of the barrel. Wide open, roar my future now. Looking fucking new. All I know is that I don't know. All I know is that I don't know nothing. All I know is that I don't know. All I know is that I don't know nothing.
Welcome back.
Hi.
I was liking our conversation earlier about ass.
There's just really no comparison. Like
No.
somebody asks you if you're a boob guy or an ass guy. It's like ass can't be, know. Like chick gets like implants in her butt. It still doesn't look right because her legs are the wrong size. You know, like you could see an athletic woman and the shape on her body.
Yeah.
And
You sure can.
it's just different, you know.
Or have you seen the girls that are like doing they're manipulating it with AI, or they're manipulating it in Photoshop, or in Premiere, where they'll get in and curve the butt a little bit more, lift it a little bit more. And
Have you seen the filter on Instagram? It's like wide shot.
No.
There's a filter that like just widens you out.
Oh, no.
Like it makes you look more jacked. Like it just it like takes the center and just stretches it. So I'm like, that like they already have like filters that it's bullshit.
AI's doing fucking crazy shit now with like regard to editing and all the things that are happening. And like I don't know how, like I've been paying attention to it. Like they've been using celebrity voices on Reels where like they'll do like the opening shot will be like Keanu Reeves, and then it'll start talking, on these like, they're like these fucking motivational bullshit, like identity, the pages that don't have an identity, and they're just like, whatever. It's a promotional page basically for motivation or whatever. And then they'll start, it's his voice, but you can tell it's AI because there's no inflection.
Yeah.
And then they read the message, but everybody thinks it might be Keanu because he's in the opening shot, with the little video clip, and then it goes through a montage with him doing a voiceover over the top of it, but it's an AI voice.
Yeah.
And so I've seen that a lot with like Anthony Hopkins, with Keanu Reeves. Who else? There's a couple other actors Morgan Freeman. There's a couple other actors that like Instagram's been AIing the shit out of their voices. So
you know what's crazy with AI? So like right now I'm living on Jacob Bynum's property down at Rifles Only. It's just an awesome friend of mine gave me an opportunity to live there while we close on this property. And one of the guys that was run through one of his long range courses, civilian, ends up being a dude that works on AI, right? Programming and stuff like that, programming computers. And he I was sitting there bullshitting with him. We were just having a beer. At the end of the day, I stopped by to say what's up to Jacob, and we started talking about AI in the program, and I was talking about how like wild it is. And he goes, dude, yeah, check this out. So you're an engineer in the Army, right? Like I was a combat, SF engineer, 18 Charlie. And so homemade explosives, he's like, how do you make a bomb? He's like, he asks AI, how do I make homemade explosives? And it comes back with a question for him of like, what is your desired target?
Oh my fuck! Really?
Dead serious.
Did he
right?
put?
Then hold on. And then he like says, I don't know, like a bridge or something like that, and a bridge pylon or a pillar or something like that, and it comes back with the chemical makeup of different HME that you can create, and it comes with the cooking instructions and everything to basically make like C4 and all kinds of stuff out of what's in your kitchen.
Oh my!
The amounts, the temperatures, like everything that you need to do to make homemade explosives, and it's wild, right? That's kind of like scary, right?
It is.
Like
Yeah.
what we used to have is Google, right?
Yeah.
Is like, oh, I don't know how to do that, and you would just ask the Google machine, and it would come back with like, the age of somebody or whatever the fuck was in conversation. Nobody just has conversation, fucking imagination anymore.
No. That's wild though, but that also alludes to what I've talked about with regard to AI in the past of like the third and fourth order unintended effects of like AI.
Mm-hmm.
People are like, oh, I can edit video faster now, or I can add celebrity voiceovers. Yeah, but you can also get a recipe to fucking cook C4 in your kitchen and go blow up things if you want to.
Yeah, that's a good question though. That's like information is also freedom, right? And blocking information is blocking your freedom
Correct.
to learn and do as you will.
Yeah.
Right? Just like owning a gun.
Yeah.
I can go rob a bank right now. But am I going to? Just because I have a gun and have the ability to have that or the information or what it is, right? So it's like, it's a wild concept to think that the information is out there and is readily accessible for those who would want to do harm. But also it's readily accessible to you.
Correct.
So it's a double-edged sword. The more information we have, the more protection we can have against the tyrannical government per se or something like that.
Yep.
Used in a specific way, but simultaneously the other side could have it too. Right.
Right.
So
Well, I mean, that's why I use
it's kind of like the nuke.
Yeah.
One country gets a nuke. They all get nukes. Now we're all at the same playing field. You know what I mean? But it's scary if a country had a nuke. Korea has nukes.
Yes, they do. Yeah. And Iran is working on that. So it's the hashtag I always use, dangerous freedom.
Yeah.
I would prefer dangerous freedom. I'd prefer AI to be giving you C4 recipes over information, blocking or, censorship. This whole censorship thing with everything that's going on with social media and the fucking politicians on the left straight up coming out and saying, like Hillary Clinton was on an interview, and Kamala has also said the same thing about, social media is, and I'm paraphrasing here, people, so like don't fucking murder me in the comments because I didn't get this exactly right. But the paraphrasing was basically like, it's really dangerous for people to have the freedom to be able to just say whatever they want on a social platform and reach millions of people. Well, fuck. Hello, politician. You think it's not dangerous for you to fucking lie to the public or twist or manipulate or do the fucking information operations campaigns that you guys do? Like, that's the thing that really gets me is the whole hypocrisy behind, and both sides do it. Both sides have information operation campaigns. Like Sean Ryan just had to come out on his podcast and make a public apology because he reported via some National Guardsmen that Kamala went out and did a photo op with supplies that were getting put on a C-130, and then the supplies got pulled off and the plane never left. When in fact, what happened was the plane, when they were going through their pre-flight stuff, there was a problem with the plane, had some type of mechanical thing that needed to be repaired. They pulled the supplies off, switched planes out, and then the supplies ended up leaving like 2 days later.
Right.
So, but the right reported, Kamala's just doing a fucking photo op. It's fucking fake and bullshit. And then he had to come back and, he got the updated information and had to come back and post a retraction and an apology on Instagram.
Isn't that so fucking frustrating though? Because it's like any news media outlet that you watch in America, really in any country. I mean, like, I love it when I talk to Americans and they're like, no, only Russia has propaganda or some other country or China or something like that, right? It's like, we have propaganda too, buddy.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like,
how do you think we fought the Cold War?
Like we're 1,000%, programming the population to go a direction, whether it be a political direction or what. But with all of our media outlets monetized and paid for and lobbyists and everything else, it's like, I don't trust anything news says. And it's always taken out of context. This is what somebody said. This was the tweet that was put up. This is the whatever the fuck that was put up. And it's like, you have to spend so much time trying to decipher through the bullshit and read all sides of news to actually come up with what the reality is and make your own decision on, like, do I like this policy or not? Do I think he's an asshole for doing said thing or not? Or was it taken out of context and what somebody said was actually, you understand what I'm saying?
Right.
Like, pointed towards something that like, no, I probably would have said that too. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I think it's I think that's why long form conversations like this, and Sean Ryan even said it on his show. He's like, the podcast, and Joe Rogan's been going down this road for way longer than any of us, but the value of the long form the podcast and the long form conversation, where if you take the time to listen to the long form conversation instead of the mainstream media 2-minute snippet, it's a lot more difficult to manipulate a long form conversation than it is to fucking, have a quick news bite, or something quickly pop up on Instagram that's like completely been manipulated for information operations.
Well, Russia, like during the Cold War, one of their big things that they came back with, that they were when they were trying to find the weaknesses of America. We have the shortest attention span of any culture in the world. So
We do, yeah. Fact.
Headline pops up, right? Everybody's behind that headline. Next day, new headline pops up. Everybody forgets what was going on yesterday.
Yeah.
Right? They just follow what's the new hot topic of the day and immediately forget the other. I mean, fuck, Afghanistan and Iraq. People didn't even know we were there at one point. You know what I mean? Like,
Or they had forgotten about it.
Completely forgot about it. And there's all these different, topics going up.
Yeah.
Like, fuck, aliens are real, but then BLM. You know what I mean? Like Black Lives Matter. And it's like just the topic pops up and you end up losing anything else that was the day prior.
Well, it was really shocking to me that like when Congress started talking about, openly started admitting and talking about, UAP or whatever the fuck they call it now, UFOs.
Yeah.
Because I'm a Gen X and fucking that's what I grew up with was UFOs. So like UFO, UAP, like people, they started openly talking about that, and there was like lightning pod footage off of an F-18 on the thermal imager that straight up had a fucking UFO flying on it and had the object speed and altitude on the thing that you could read on the data on that imagery, and the public just was like, neat. They were like, okay.
Well, I think we're just so used to misinformation and conspiracy theory, this or that I think people look at it like, I wonder if that's real. And they like you can openly say it's real at this point, but the society is so desensitized to trying to decipher through what's real.
Yeah.
That a headline pops up that talks about aliens, and like you just said, we're used to these headlines that pop up that are out of context. Are they actually saying aliens are real? I don't know. I don't have time to look into it anyway. I really want to talk about guns and abortion. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, and it just switches right back to what the fuck ever.
I want to switch back to whatever can polarize the country the most.
Yeah. This doesn't do anything for me hating Republicans, so let's fucking get out of there.
Yeah. Yes, correct. That's exactly right. I can't hate anybody for with this clip of it.
That looks like unity.
Yeah. If anything, UFOs might unite us in a common cause. So, yeah. Everybody on all sides will be holding the government accountable for weird shit happening.
That doesn't fit the agenda at all.
No. And I think there's probably a great deal of social engineering that's going into shaping what our attention span is. Because if you think about before social media existed, I would just smash books and I would read newspapers. I was reading things constantly in
trying
long
to
form.
figure out your awareness around you of what is happening in the world, right?
Yeah.
Like now it's spoon-fed to you every day what's happening in the world, but now they can shape what your perception of that is so easily. And you don't have to go out and look for the information.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
And I think it's relative to like the death scrolling culture where they've gotten like ad, and you find yourself swiping through stuff so that when you see something that you read that you should probably take some time to research, you're just like, nah, fuck it. Oh yeah. Look at that pair of shoes. Oh, look, a girl twerking. Awesome. Oh, look, a new gun. Rad.
I go down the twerking rabbit hole like a motherfucker. But if an ad pops up, I purposely don't buy it.
Yeah.
I'm like, you want me to buy this? You just fucking listen to my conversation. I was talking about a bead roller.
Yeah.
You know what a bead roller is?
No.
All right. So it's a piece. It's a machine. You can run a piece of sheet metal through, and it makes like the indents, like you're in the floorboard of a car or whatnot, or the body line that comes down the side of the car.
Yeah.
That's a bead roller. Right? Nobody really knows what that is unless you build cars, hot rods, or do sheet metal work.
Yeah.
And I remember I was talking to Gretchen about it, my wife, and I was like, I think I need to get a bead roller. Maybe I can make one, but I'm doing a floor pan on a 1930 Ford, and I was like, I really want to make some badass floor pans that are nice and solid and pretty. And no shit, open up my phone, boom, bead roller.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Eastwood or whoever, you know, bead roller, and then there was another more expensive one down. I was like, that's bullshit. You know what I mean? I'm purposefully not buying that brand now.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to buy a different brand.
Yeah.
You know, because you fucking straight up forced your brand down my throat and not buying it.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, the fact that your phone spies on everything you fucking say, and now, you know, things are popping up. Like, it used to be like the algorithm in your phone, you would like talk and it would record snippets with keywords in it. And then at 2 a.m., it would upload it to Instagram HQ. And then they would take all of those keywords out of your fucking conversation that your phone recorded and uploaded to the Instagram. And then it would basically then tailor your advertisements, your ads, and then drop it into your feed. And that's how they do it. But now, instead of like doing it in days, they're doing it in like literally minutes.
Yeah.
So yeah, on Instagram now they're doing it in minutes, literally, instead of days or weeks.
Well, I love. I feel like America and I don't know, whoever the fuck made this happen. It was the greatest thing ever. Is to say a conspiracy theory and coin the idea of conspiracy theory. Right. Because once you say something or allude to something possibly being a conspiracy theory, nobody even fucking looks into it. You know?
People immediately dismiss it.
Yeah. I don't want to say that I'm a conspiracy theorist. However, there's definitely weird shit that's happened all throughout history that you're like, nobody looked into that? Really?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, and all kinds of different things. That's getting into conflicts, out of conflicts, purposes of certain things, you know, and you're just like, that doesn't make sense. And there's a lot of things that line up to that being illegal or fucked up or somebody, you know.
Yeah.
Doing some heinous shit and like, that's a conspiracy theory. You know, we'll just leave that one alone.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, there's definitely things people immediately will discredit with being a conspiracy theory if it doesn't suit or fit their political narrative. Mm-hmm. And once again, like back to both sides doing the shit. So it's an interesting time to be alive, especially being like Gen X and having no fucking internet. Having no internet. The internet did not exist when I was a kid. And now watching the growth and the explosion of technology.
So you have a business, right? I have 2 different companies with 3. And in order to advertise, market, and do what you do to sell a product or a service or whatever it is you do today, that's through Instagram or some social media. That is the most powerful advertisement outlet, really, that's there, right? Because I like guns. You like guns.
Yep.
There's a good chance I'm going to share the gun that I like.
Yeah.
And you're going to see it and be like, damn, that's a badass gun.
Yes.
You see what I'm saying, right? And like your audience, the people that follow you, generally have similar interests. So whatever product or thing or service it is that you are purchasing, somebody else is going to see that purchase and or the share of it or whatever it is. So it's like you're instantly targeting all of the people that would want to purchase said item.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Across the globe. So for us to ever make money or for us to be, in competition with whoever is our competition, you have to have a presence. You have to have a social media presence.
Yeah.
You have to be out there or it's odd, you know? And like, I mean, shit, if I looked up a company and I was like, oh, do they have a website? No, they don't have a social media either. Like, oh, fuck that. And like, I'm going to find one that's actually like, I can see the brand.
Yep.
I can see the product. I can see reviews from other customers. If you don't have that, nobody, I'd say 90% of people probably won't even buy the product.
Correct.
You
and
know?
it's also not just to your point, a great marketing tool. It's also kind of your resume.
100%.
It's your resume. Like people will get on and immediately, how many followers does he have? Okay, cool. He's got 15,000 followers. That's good. Okay, cool. Like what's the quality of his content? What is he posting about? What's his social position? What's his, political position? And they like your whole, what's the quality of your photography? What is the quality and the edit of your reel? Like what service are you offering? Like people look at all of that stuff.
Everything.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's pretty much sad to say, but it is a great marketing tool, which they know, and that's why they heavily manipulate it and abuse the shit out of it, in my opinion. But it's also why it's also your resume. It's also your online resume. Like paper resumes, neat. People, the first thing they will do is get on your Instagram.
Yep.
Hey, do you have an Instagram? Do you have social media? Like I've started noticing it in the past, just in the last couple of years, like even getting on certain websites and applying for certain defense contracting jobs. They have when you're applying and submitting your CV, they also have 2 or 3 lines in there. They want you to plug in your social media so they can look at your social media.
Yep. Yep.
So it's very much your electronic resume these
100%.
days.
They're going to be reviewed by it.
Yep.
You know, and well, it's interesting too because like if you don't have a social media, you're odd in this society now,
Yeah.
right? So imagine traveling into a country, Eastern Bloc countries, you know, China, Taiwan, wherever, and you're going through a passport checkpoint or you go under extra questioning.
Yeah.
And they're like, they check your name. Who is this guy? They look up your name on a social media. You don't have shit. Or your social media is a picture. Kind of, there's further questioning that comes in with that, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
You'll
Like,
get additional scrutiny
like,
for sure.
just for the fact that you don't have a robust social media.
Yeah.
You know, like, fuck, man, when I was working in Ukraine, Eastern Europe and shit like that, and when I was in SF, I had badass social media. But what I do as a civilian, I would blast all over it. I'm a mechanic. I build hot rods. I do this. I do that. No gun stuff. Nothing military on there. Just what I do as a civilian. My identity as a civilian, you know, and it was great because anybody that looked me up, if I wanted to say I'm a mechanic, I'm just here traveling, you'd look at my social media and be like, that's a mechanic.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like that's a dude, that's a mechanic that loves hitting titty bars.
Yes.
You know, like that's it. You know,
That is it. That is it. Yeah. Yeah. And I have, you know, I have backup pages that have that. It's very sterile, but it's populated over time, and it's the same thing. It's like it's overlanding, it's outdoor, it's camping, it's drinking coffee next to a fire. So it's very innocuous to where like if I get pulled into secondary and they start asking questions, they're not going to get too suspicious because it's an old page and it's populated, and it doesn't have any weird shit in it. So
I love the dudes that I've seen that are like, I don't know, ex-bat boys or SF dudes or whatever, and all it is tactical shit. Every fucking post is like, I'm in this country now, and it's like, what the fuck, man?
Yeah, what are you doing? Yeah,
leave it alone.
Yeah,
one, nobody actually gives a fuck.
Right, correct. Yeah, OPSEC is definitely. I mean, fuck, you served in the same era. Like, do you remember the days where like if you even got caught with like a fucking camera, you'd get RFS'd.
You get fucked.
Yeah.
You fucked down hard.
Yeah, if you even got caught, and there could be nothing on your camera, but they'd be like, "Why the fuck do you have this camera? What are you taking pictures?"
You know what's
of?
hilarious about that though? Like looking back then, we were fighting fucking dirt farmers.
With no social media or internet.
Like they don't have social media or internet. What are they gonna? How are they gonna find out? You know, like where we live or what we're doing or anything? Like our OPSEC was so high, and at the same time, the risk, honestly, of that OPSEC was so low.
Right.
You know, like I could have had a cell phone there. Nobody would have been listening to me.
No. Yeah.
The United States would have been listening to me.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. The NSA would have definitely been listening. Yeah.
But fucking Hodge? No.
No.
There was no fucking jihad over there, like with a
Nope.
fucking listening device and hacking my phone.
Nope.
No.
Yes, correct. Yeah, there was nobody over there hacking networks that we had going on. The secure networks that we had up there.
Oh, they're going to Chow now.
Yeah.
You know, like they hit us with a V-bid in Salerno, and they came across the fucking airfield. And, you know, Rangers are always living near the airfield.
Yeah.
Come across the airfield, they hit the tower, take out the front half of the fucking the Chow Hall midday. 2 hours before lunch. You can see the Chow Hall from the buildings over there, like the civilian structures. It's not that hard to do intel work, right? Like on the base. They could have been like, oh, the people are there now, and drove across. They didn't, right? Their intel was so shit. You know what I mean? They hit an empty Chow Hall.
Yeah.
And then they came in, and it looked like a fucking cartoon. Like it literally looked like a bad comedy because.
Did they try and Chinese human wave assault the base?
No, man. Dude, they fucking. So the van, that vehicle hits, then a van comes behind that, and all the fucking jihadis get out, right? And the Talibs are fucking coming in. They got body bombs. One dude's got an RPG, and he's walking around like he's doing CQB with a fucking RPG, right? He comes around one of the T-barriers, and he's like, huh, huh, like up, down, left, looking at walls, you know what I mean, with a fucking RPG.
With his RPG.
Yeah. So it's like, it literally is like, I don't know, Team America or some shit, you know? Like, and then they come around the HESCO wall, and there was two SF dudes that were on the way to the range.
Yeah.
They stop when this fucking massive V-bid goes off. I got taken right out of my bunk 200 meters or so away, right?
Oh,
like the overpressure was massive.
Yeah.
This fucking vehicle was completely packed. And anyway, there's two SF dudes. They stop when the blast goes off over the HESCO wall, right? And they're in front, almost in front of the Chow Hall. They stop, and they're like, what the fuck? And then they just see these dudes coming around the HESCO wall, like looking around with guns. They don't even see them. They're like straight, and they just like reach in the truck and shoot these two dudes, right? The other guys run back behind the HESCO. One of them clacks himself off behind the HESCO, kills his buddy next to him. Another guy sends an RPG, goes out the base the other side, right? And I think the other dude, I forget if they shot him and his shit went off or if he just clacked himself off too. But literally 0 casualties on the American side. It was like, I'm like, that's who we're fucking fighting. You know what I mean? Like that is the Taliban's best.
Yeah. They did the same thing when I was.
Those are commandos.
Yeah. I was working out of Salerno in, what was it? I did 2 rotations at Salerno. So I did, it was at 08, or late 08, or mid 08, and then early 09. And they did the same shit when I was there. Except they didn't hit the chow hall, and they didn't use a V-bid. They shot rockets, and very accurately into the hospital overflow. Which, funny enough, like we had a shit ton of wounded, because I was volunteering with our 18 Delta when we were on operational stand down or pause. We were volunteering at the clinic and going over there and like doing assisting with like trauma management and continuation of care and stuff like that. And they hit the overflow, which was filled with prisoners.
Oh shit!
So they killed their own dudes.
Their fucking own dudes.
They killed their own dudes by hitting the hospital, and yeah, it was a mess to clean up because we volunteered to do that. But it was also comical that they like. I went and talked to one of the doctors because we were just picking up body parts at that point and flaming hospital beds. Yeah. And he was like, "Yeah, they actually killed their own guys because this was the overflow for all of like the prisoners." And I was like, "Oh shit,
that's great."
Yeah, and then we had them at one point breach part of the fence next to the airfield. And like 10 of them came in, and same thing. Like I can't remember. I think it was 3rd Bat that was like getting ready to roll out on a mission, and they were driving, fucking like, they were all driving. I don't know if they were in a bus or what the fuck they were on, but they were driving. They were in some type of vehicle driving out to the airfield to get on the birds to go do a hit.
Yeah. And
fucking sure enough, these dipshits breached the fence right next to the airfield as 3rd Bat was driving by, and they just all got off the bus and got online and fucking murdered the fuck out of these dudes.
You know, it sucks because it's like, I think of the enemy that I fought for, damn near 20 years, as far as actual engagements and shit. And then the idiocy of them, the fucking lack of training of them, they're just nowhere close to being on par or an equal in warfare.
No.
And I think about that, and I think about like, all the dudes that are like, I'm a fucking warrior, man. And you're like, we fought dirt farmers. I don't want to take it away from anybody. We did do some crazy shit. There was some badass firefights. There was moments where you definitely need some intestinal fortitude and shit like that. But it's like, man, I wanted to fight a Russian. You know what I mean? I wanted to fight somebody that I was like, that's my equal.
Yeah.
I want you to test me.
Yeah. Yeah, and there was...
The tests in Afghanistan and shit were like, don't get hit by somebody's lucky round. Or an IED or a whatever. It was not so much a test of like, he's an equal killer as I am.
Correct.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and I found that to be definitely true in Afghanistan. In Iraq, there were some dudes. There were some Iranian Quds guys that came in and trained part of the Shia militia, the JAM, Jaish al-Mahdi militia, and they had some dudes that knew what the fuck was up and could bang. And then we had lots of Chechens. I think we wiped out 2 groups of Chechens in firefights that lasted a long time in Fallujah. My guys were like working containment on one side of the engagement, and my battalion swept through there, and they ended up killing like a squad size element of Chechens in one engagement. And that was unfortunately in that engagement, that was Agnew's brother, who I was friends with.
Yeah.
Morgan was killed in that engagement, unfortunately. But like they got in a scrap with Chechens, and it lasted a couple hours, and those dudes were switched on. They were like wearing body armor. They were wearing like Interceptor body armor that they had stolen off of one of our fucking convoys, and had helmets on and had nods, and had set up a support by fire position on a rooftop, and then had a maneuver element trying to maneuver on our guys, and like they knew what was up, but we ended up compartmentalizing them and killing them. That scrap was good. So Iraq, we ran into, at least from my experience, a very mixed bag. Like sometimes it was stupid fucking, uneducated jihadis that didn't know what the fuck they were doing. And then in other times you'd run into a fucking squad-sized element of Chechens. So.
Well, it's like I say that, but then you look at like Ukraine and you look at Russia and how terrible they're doing in a tactical fight against a marginally trained enemy, Ukraine, right? And a lot of those, their attrition rate is so fucking high that there's dudes going to combat that haven't gotten through basic.
Right.
They're just getting thrown to the front, and they're literally winning out of perseverance and intestinal fortitude. You know what I mean? And the Russians are struggling.
Yeah.
And then I think of that exact story that you just said. There's a trained enemy maneuvering on you that understood at least squad attack is what it sounds like, right? To where they could flank and you succeeded. You succeeded in that,
Yeah.
right? Like, and you won that firefight. And I think about that a lot when I'm like, I think we place a lot of enemies or possible enemies as peers when they're actually very far behind the power curve.
Right.
You know, on actual ability in combat and ability to, you know, give their subordinates responsibility and authority to move forward, and kill the enemy in absence of orders and delegation. It's hugely apparent, you know.
Yeah. And so let me ask you this, because you've been over there and you've got experience. Do you think the Russians just overall suck ass at warfare, or do you think that they are just continuing to fucking throw conscripts and North Koreans and Africans out to the front lines and they're holding back their they're professional grade troops? Do you think that that's a thing, or do you think they are using their professional grade troops in conjunction with the conscripts?
All right. Well, is this a popular war in Russia?
I don't know.
So I have Russian friends and friends who have family in Russia, and they protested this. And there was a shit ton of people, like 8,000 people at the Red Square put in prison.
That many?
The day the invasion happened. When that group was let out,
Yeah.
I want to say 80 or 90% of them all went straight back, got arrested. Now they're like probably forever in prison, probably dead. Who knows?
Yeah.
You know, some of those are my buddy's family
Yeah.
that are still in Russia. And it is not a popular war, right? Like, I would say a majority of people that are modern thinking people are like, that is a sovereign nation. They don't want to be Russian. Why would I force you to be Russian?
Right.
Right? So now imagine an unpopular war with your son coming home dead, right? So I don't think they're throwing their best at it. I do think that they're throwing a lot of conscripts. They're throwing a lot of fucking dudes from prison, you know. If they can use somebody from another country, fuck yeah, let's do that, because we can now paint this in a certain way, you know, and then they hold their actual specialized troops or anybody of like any caliber for harder targets that they're going to hit.
Yeah.
You know, it's a war of attrition. It's a war of like, hey, America went back on their promise. Look,
Right.
you know what I mean? Like we flexed nuts like we were going to invade, like they've done countless times in history. And this last time, you know, after Biden complete fucks up the withdrawal of fucking Afghanistan, you know, or whatever, the cabinet. I mean, presidents are like scapegoats. We just like to point at them, but it's really, you know, whatever corporations run this whole fucking thing, who knows? But, you know, this administration pulls out Afghanistan, fucks it up, and then when Russia flexes like they're going to invade that country again, which they've done a bunch of times, and they say they're doing training operations on the border, we go, they're going to invade. We pull, I believe it was a battalion, 101st Airborne out of the fucking country, 2 SF teams, and close the embassy and pull it all out, and the next day Russia invades. It's like, look, we called their bluff. We flexed like we were gonna, again, and America let them invade.
We folded up and fucking ran.
Because we're, like, politically, we are cowards.
Yes.
That's the truth, you know. And we are not the protectors of freedom. We are the protectors of our own self-interests.
Unfortunately, in this administration, yes. So what do you think the Ukrainians could do better? Do you think they are, because when I look at what's going on over there, I see things that I think they're doing well at, and then I see things that I'm like, they really don't know how to use combined arms as assets as well as they should.
So one of the major things that they're doing well is the fact that their NCO Corps is given authority and responsibility, right? So they can look at a platoon sergeant in the absence of orders. He can move forward and continue to work. Russians, it has to come from a commander. If you kill a commander, the whole unit shuts down until the next commander from all the way up gives an order to move the fucking front line forward, right? So that was one of the biggest things that we had taught them. What they could do better, man, have more people.
Yeah.
They're dying, you know, like those that had training from us, have experience, they're all dead. You know what I mean? Like a lot of them are. And it's just really a war of attrition, and Russia's trying to fucking wait it out. You know, if you kill enough of them, they're not going to have enough to fight you anymore. You know, it's a small country. Russia's a big country. Russia has allies that they're sending at it. Ukraine doesn't. You know why? Because we were their ally.
Yeah.
Hey, man, join my club. It's the fucking coolest club in the world, right? It's going to be a badass club. It's NATO. We're going to protect you from anything. Somebody's going to invade you. We got you. I got your back. This guy over here is like, don't join that club. And we're like, yeah, man, come on, keep joining. Don't fucking leave. Don't worry about him. Just keep joining my fucking club. And then you start prospecting, you know, you're prospecting from a badass, cool club. And then this dude's like, I told you not to fucking go to that club. Starts beating the fuck out of you. I'm like, damn, dude, you should have been in my club already. And you walk the fuck away. That's us. That's America. That's America pushing countries to join NATO.
Yes.
right? We promise a lot and then we do jack shit.
Yeah, and NATO also has a huge hand in that. Like NATO,
100%.
they're a bunch of pussies, really. They don't
Really, 100%. Yeah.
Yeah, they're not doing what they need to do to support Ukraine properly, in my opinion. And they have, just the story that I sent you the other day about like now North Korea is getting involved, and North Korea is sending troops, and China's already been providing weapons and technology and intelligence for them. So like,
well, Russians were fucking funding the Taliban.
Right.
You know what I mean? All these proxy wars that happen end up really just being to undermine another government. And they probably don't even really give a fuck about Ukraine, Really all they need is Crimea, Donetsk, Luhansk, like the area on the east side all the way down to Crimea to have that port.
Yeah.
And the rest of the country is like, it's rich, it's beautiful. They have a fuck ton of agriculture and
yeah, they were a leading ag producer, and they also have, I think, if I'm not mistaken, they had the only nuke plant in Europe.
Yeah, natural resources are fucking amazing. But, Russia can kind of stretch it and then just get them to change their border and get what they really want, And
what do you think, what's your assessment? Let's do my favorite thing, which is like the crystal ball. Because I'm rarely wrong on these. I want to see what your opinion is. What do you think's the outcome? Let's say Trump gets elected. What do you think? Because he's like, I'm going to create the best deal in the world and I'll call Putin on the phone right away and I'll shut everything down and we'll get the war ended. What do you think his play is going to be there, and do you think he'll be successful with that?
I think the push from Trump, if there's a push there for the war to end, is going to be just a changing of the border. Cut your losses, move the border. Luhansk, Donetsk, and Crimea are now Russian, and you can now move on.
How do you think that affects Ukraine?
Hugely, because that port, all those areas are a big deal. Luhansk and Donetsk. I have friends that I trained over there that were from like Donetsk, and he was telling me stories about how like Russia was in prior to the separatists starting to separate back 2015, 16.
Yeah.
After Winter on Fire, they were bussing in prisoners from prisons in Russia, and they're like, "Hey, we'll give you freedom if you move to this area." And then you start a resistance against fucking Ukraine. So there's like prisoners getting off there, giving them houses, purchasing homes, shit like that, filling the area with pro-Russian, dudes coming over there that they were giving them houses and freedom from prison so they would start a fucking conflict, right?
Oh, no shit.
Yeah. So, but that dude, he's like, but you know what? He's like, that was my family. His family's farm's gone now. The entire city's fucking rubble. Like everything that was in that area, his entire family's lineage is gone. And he's like, I'm going to fight until I get Donetsk back, right? Until I get my home back. And I'm like, we as Americans, I think, are so far removed from the idea that your entire history is gone.
Yeah.
Right? You say you're a Texan, your family's had a ranch, you're very patriotic, you love your country. Whatever country comes in.
Cartel comes in.
And starts taking your land, takes your country.
Takes your ranch.
Takes your ranch, burns that whole motherfucker down. Your family has lost everything, every crop, every structure, everything they've ever built, right? And they're like, and then the country's like, we need to change our border to join a United Nations, or NATO, to make sure that we have protection again. And you're like, no, that was my land, that was my family, right? So in that, I feel like there's a lot of people that don't understand the idea of the fact that these people don't want to fucking give up. They don't want to just say, let's move the fucking border. Yeah. You know what I mean? There's a pride there. There's a piece there. And it's like, when do you need to suck it up and eat the pride and go, okay, for the betterment of my entire nation being genocided right now for the most part, I need to just change this border, right? So I think, in my mind, that's going to be more of a Trump's play. And then you get Biden, the Biden administration side, which really doesn't do shit except throw technology at it from Poland.
Right.
And we give more funding. But what the fuck does the funding do when you don't send humans? I had a dude over there that I was training, Vladimir, and he was like, I took him out to a hookah bar. I got him a little bit lit because he came straight from the front line to my training event, and I took all of his guys out to a cool spa where it was pretty much dudes from Belarus, and the owner was from Belarus, and Ukrainians. They're all refugees that pretty much run this little hookah bar. It was like a safe space for them to all go and kind of like relax and whatnot, and we're talking, he gets a little lit, he starts to get a little emotional, and he's like, I don't need any more fucking javelins, man. I got 2 LMTVs full of fucking javelins. My commander was like, go that way, kill Russians. That was the plan. You know why? Because he doesn't know what the fuck he's doing either, because his last commander died, and now it's just some random dude that happens to have college, and he's a commander now, right? And he's like, I have more javelins than I have dudes to shoot them, nor dudes trained to be able to shoot them. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like, they need humans. They need humans that will do what they say they're going to fucking do and back them and help,
Right.
or they're going to die. But I didn't meet a single Ukrainian that did not say, I will die Ukrainian before I live Russian. 100% patriotic people from fucking border to border. And then I think of, like, all these, Republican-sided, like, extremist Americans that are just like it's not our fucking cause, it's not our problem, it's not our whatever. But those same motherfuckers were in Afghanistan, like, just give me a cause and I'll fucking kill anything. I'll go to war. I love war.
Right.
And we were fighting for people that didn't even know they were in a country, half of them. You know what I mean? I was on a fucking mountain. They thought I was a Russian.
Yeah.
In 2014, and they're like, no, we're here to save your country, Afghanistan, from extremist terrorism and shit like that. And they're like, country? Like, they didn't even know they're in a fucking country. They're a tribe. They're a people on top of. So you had to educate people to even understand what patriotism is, right? And that was a very worthy cause. And now you go to fucking Ukraine, where people's sovereignty is being stolen and they're being slaughtered, and people are like, not our problem.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't fucking get any of you.
It's not our problem until it is our fucking problem.
It's all political bullshit, kind of swaying people's minds and agendas. And
Well, it reminds me of World War I and World War II, where we had an isolationist strategy, and we were like, nope, not our problem. Nope, not our problem. Not our problem. Until we got fucked up, and then it was our problem, and we did have to get involved. And
there's not a single conflict that America has gotten into with humans that we were not attacked prior to it, right? Whether that was a passing of lines that was by design, whether, like, America allowed something to pass, or it was like straight up attack. I don't fucking know. Our interest in getting into fights is all based on our self-interests and preservation of America. It is not the protectors of anybody's freedom.
Yeah, I would like to see us have more foresight than hindsight and pay attention to history, because I don't think things are going to get any better with, like, the current escalation, with what you see with Iran doing, with getting involved in, like, launching all the missiles that it's launching at Israel. The whole region is completely fucking destabilized because of the Islamists. But you have Iran working very diligently to get nuclear weapons up and running. And I don't think that the country that continues to be as aggressive as they are in the region and is the birthplace of suicide bombing needs to have nuclear weapons. I really don't think so, especially as the radical as the regime is there, and they've said several times, oh, we want to wipe Israel off the map. So
you know what we're going to do? Sanctions.
Right. Sanctions, yes.
I just don't understand when I grew up, if I saw a bully fucking somebody up, I fucked that dude up, right? Like, I was born on, I don't know, Stallone and Arnold and man movies and shit where you do the right thing. And whether you were going to die or not, the outcome of it would be your death. You're going to do the right thing today. You know what I mean? If I can't look myself in the face in the mirror tomorrow, I have to hit you today.
Right.
And that's been my metric of knocking a motherfucker out at a bar, right? You slap my wife on the ass, you do something that I literally am not going to be able to look myself in the mirror and call myself a man.
If I don't do something.
I'm going to fuck you up today.
Yeah.
And we lost that, but I don't know if we ever even had it. Because, again, now we're talking about history. We're talking about, like I just said, we really haven't gotten in any conflict unless we were provoked into it by a physical act, right? So now, was I brainwashed back then by the idea of that? And I was the man that went to the Ranger Regiment and then SF that, had the crazy bravery and intestinal fortitude that would go hit that bunker if America said, and America said so, that they needed to be in those positions. But the truth is, they don't really give a fuck,
Right.
Like, yeah, it's an interesting topic, but we are not that people.
I just think that with our foreign policy the way it is, with what I just said with Iran fucking around, and then you've got the Chinese Belt and Road Initiative, and they're hitting us on 1,000 different fronts, and I've talked about it ad nauseum. I'm going to keep talking about it until people start fucking listening and paying attention. But their Belt and Road Initiative, and then you've got what Russia's doing in Ukraine, and then you've got now North Korea in the mix, and you've got China supporting Russia.
Yep.
I mean, so China was supporting Russia. You've got China's Belt and Road Initiative and all the things they're doing to take over Africa and take over Pan-Asia and growing day by day as a global superpower. And then you have, now North Korea sending troops to support the assault on Ukraine.
But again, if we do anything, it's going to start World War II. Or we're so worried about our self-preservation, right? Or getting into a fight with somebody, right? We don't have an appetite for war anymore, is like what I like to say with Afghanistan. We left because there wasn't an appetite for war anymore. And it's like we should have stayed there and helped that country become sovereign and had a strategic location in the world that we could have stabilized and turned into a democracy, right? However, we bailed, right? And now it's like any conflict that comes up, it's like you're not going to do anything because you're not going to commit troops if Americans don't get hit, right? So what is our promise to the world? What is our promise to Taiwan? What is our promise to anybody that we say, hey, we're going to defend you? Oh, we're going to defend you with sanctions on something when our fucking economy's going to shit anyway.
Right.
And we're about to lose the dollar, right? To like oil's no longer going to be traded in the dollar foreseeably, right? So like, where is our power? Yeah. Where's our mantle to stand on? Where we're like, we're fucking America, man. Don't fuck with us, and these are our friends.
Yeah, well, we keep electing people. We keep electing pussies that are on both sides of the aisle that are morally bankrupt and don't have the balls to do what needs to be done. And realistically, like what happens when we run into a situation where our inaction and our shit foreign policy and our we're just going to sanction you actually is what causes World War III to break out.
For sure.
Inaction has the same consequence as action does. So you either can realize that the world situation is massively deteriorating and come up with a good cogent strategy to start combating it and doing what's right, or you can continue to sit on your ass until another 9/11 happens, another Pearl Harbor happens, or another situation where we have to get involved and maybe not under favorable circumstances that are tactically advantageous to us with something happening in fucking Europe with, like we talked about last night with like something like a missile hitting Poland. And now Poland's like, fuck you, because they hate Russia. And now we've got fucking NATO involved. And now by default, we have to get in the mix. And maybe the situation we've waited so long to get involved and do the right thing that now Russia, North Korea, and China are in really good, strong position and have positioned themselves well, maybe outmaneuver us in a confrontation in Eastern Europe. So,
well, fuck, man, Germany doesn't even have tanks. Half of Europe is like pacifist almost.
Because people didn't think that a fucking another conventional land warfare fucking scenario like World War II was going to ever happen again.
Yeah, somebody's not going to land grab again, right? Which is kind of an outdated, kind of archaic thought. And now when you think of like social media, as we talked about earlier, right? Like everyone has access to the reality kind of what's going on. And everybody, especially in a modern country, first world country where you're educated and people have technology, if they're a sovereign nation that has patriotism and an identity, you can't delete that.
No.
The only way to delete that is genocide, truthfully.
Yeah.
Right? It's because you couldn't come into America and tell me I'm Russian. I will fight you tooth and nail, and there will be resistance elements for the rest of the future.
Right.
Makes sense, right? That's the same thing with Ukraine. Even if they did take it, there will be resistance elements in that country, bombing and IEDs and resistance to that government for the rest of the foreseeable future, right? You can't do it unless you genocide the whole fucking thing and wipe it off and move Russians in, right? So the idea of land grabbing doesn't make sense in today's era.
No.
That like, you're Russian now. You're an American now. You know what I mean? Like you're this, unless that culture chooses by choice, like, no, our culture is more aligned this direction. We'd like to be a part. Well, we have our own sovereignty and we're our own country, like a state.
Right.
Right. We're like, Puerto Rico to America almost,
So you're now the SecDef. What would be your strategy to deal with the situation in Eastern Europe?
Fucking PMCs, man. I'd start I'd absolutely go back, probably Blackwater kind of era. You know what I mean? I put some serious fucking funding into it, and I'd send humans, and they'd have warriors on the fucking front line, well paid, and they'd fight, right? Not just dudes that were like standing,
Right.
Like,
so on the tactical level, so that's your answer on the tactical level. What about at the strategic level? What else would you do to employ or to get people involved to help basically stop this aggression?
The border would change. The border's got to change. They can't have it's already gone. Donetsk and Luhansk is gone. You know what I mean? That is all Russian now.
Right.
That scab's been removed.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, it hurts. It's gone. It's a scar now. You got to let it go. It sucks. Trust me. I've been there. I've seen the people. I understand it. I understand they're hurt, but you got to let it go. And you got to change your country border and make this Ukraine and be like, cool, you can have this Crimea. You can have this. This is the new Ukraine. You know what I mean? And then strengthen your industries in another fucking direction and get the fuck out of being a puppet to Russia.
Right.
What they should have done way back when the fucking wall fell is had a Slavic Union instead of joining anybody into NATO. Latvia, Lithuania, Estonia, Poland, everyone should have fucking joined a Slavic Union that an attack on one was an attack on all. The only thing was in that agreement was that countries east of the wall will not join NATO, which we fucked them and did, right? So we caused this. Like, let's not get it wrong, people. Like, America and NATO caused all this conflict with Russia, truthfully, right? We provoked the bear and continued to push our line of NATO to their border when the agreement was nothing's going to join NATO. If that was Slavic, if that was the slaves to Russia, the Slavic people, if they all could have had their own union, that union could have been more West. The Slavic Union could have been a westernized union. You know what I mean? That was more online with NATO, with Western thinking, with whatever the fuck it is. It could have not been puppeted to Russia, right? Because the Slavic Union would be like attack on one is attack on all. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
They failed there. We failed by starting to add all these fucking countries instead of pushing something to that effect and being partners with the Slavic Union. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, that's the whole reason everything fucking started anyway. Like, you can't get fucking health insurance when you got cancer, right?
Right.
So country cannot join NATO if it's under attack, right? If it's in a conflict. So Georgia, while we were in Afghanistan and stuff like that, and Ukraine, we're talking about joining NATO. We're kicking ass in Afghanistan. Russia invades Georgia as a deterrent of them joining NATO because Putin's like, if you guys do this, there's going to be a repercussion. They fucking continue to try to join NATO, so Russia invades, and they're sucking so fucking bad they're shooting down their own aircraft because they can't talk surface to air. We're calling in CAS 50 meters away from us, and they can't even talk to their own aircraft, right? So they paused a modernization of the force before anything happened in Ukraine. They put in a puppet master president. They tried to work it politically and on that side. When they're on fire, country goes to shit, you know, and they're like, okay, we got to take this now. So they cause a conflict on the eastern side, secure their interests in the country, Crimea, Donetsk, Luhansk. And now if it's an active conflict, if that border doesn't change, that country can never join NATO, right? So they're protecting themselves. So they're going to maintain that conflict as long as possible, unless we come to an agreement. And that agreement, I think, is what probably Trump is alluding to in what he says, you know. And it's wild, too, because, like, Democrats, they keep pushing this Ukraine thing that they're so pro-Ukraine, but they failed Ukraine. Then you got, you know, Trump was the president when I was in Ukraine, and nothing was happening. He was holding the ground. He was like, and we were openly saying, I'm a Green Beret. I am in this country. We're partnered with these people. This is a sovereign nation. We were human shields. Nobody's going to bomb this country because there's Americans there, right? That would cause World War III, right? Because American humans were there to be an attack on us. So we were holding the line. Republican side technically was holding the line and protecting Ukrainians more than the Democrat side has. Does that make sense? Which is wild, because then I watch the news and I watch the debates and stuff like that, and you know the Republican side is like, you know, it's not our cause. We don't really need to fucking throw money at it. What do we need to just end it and stuff like that? But the truth is, I think they're actually going to have better interests for Ukraine in reality than the Democrat side. I think the Democrat side's going to do exactly what they're doing right now. Just going to throw fucking money at it.
Yeah, just continue to throw money at it.
But I could be completely fucking wrong too.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because who knows? The politicians kind of do whatever the fuck they want anyway. You know?
Unfortunately,
whoever's funding them, you know, they're going to say one thing, do something else.
Yeah, unfortunately, that's the state of affairs that we're in right now. It's I just don't think we're watching. I think we're watching things deteriorate heavily, and we're already, you know, and I think Andrew Bustamante has said this before too. We're already in the middle of World War III. It's not always about tanks and guns and bombs falling. There's lots of other ways to conduct and wage warfare, from, you know, economic standpoint to espionage to, you know, strategic teaming to proxy war. Like I think we're already eyeball deep, and especially after seeing that news with North Korea sending troops now to support Russians. Like, now you've got essentially what the old school like Axis powers were.
Well, you know, something that's interesting about getting out of the military for me, right? Like, I loved war. I very fortunately had and I said this in the last podcast, I very fortunately lived in a time where I was allowed to go to war. You know, I had a fucking great time. Getting out of the military, it's like, what am I going to do now? I think there's a lot of soldiers that have that same thought, like, what am I going to affect? I feel like life's whatever. For me, now I'm free to affect what I choose to. I can go to Ukraine if I want to.
Right.
And I can go train some Ukrainians, right?
Right.
I'm 100% permanent and total disabled. I make decent money. You know what I mean? Like, really decent money to not do shit. I could go there in a charitable way and train some fucking soldiers as a volunteer, right? And I intend on doing that. I intend on trying to figure out a way to make money doing it, so I'm paying bills and, wifey's getting her Botox and shit like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
or
my life's still moving forward, and there's somebody's paying me for the time and the sacrifice foreseeably if a bomb hit me or something like that, right? But I intend on going back and helping in whatever way I can without getting into the fight myself, right? I don't have to chase the dragon anymore, but I would like to affect it. I'd like to keep my promise. My promise when I was there, which I thought was America's promise, is we're going to help you and you're sovereign and we're Americans and we believe in you and your
sovereignty,
cause. And it'd be rad if more people, I think, thought that way. They were like, we should fucking help this anyway. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm an American and I'm going to keep my promise. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Well, there used to be a time where, like, when Americans promised things, we would follow through with them and deliver them. Yeah. And that has gone away. It doesn't exist anymore.
No.
Like you said, we are only interested in our own self-interest. And really, that self-interest is decided by people that are fucking heavily misinformed in the political, infrastructure on what the reality is on the ground, And I think you've made, really good points in terms of, like, it's always fun and games until it lands on your doorstep, which is what happened during 9/11, and it was, in my opinion, a result of our policies for 10 years during the 90s when fucking Clinton was running shit. Like, we could have killed bin Laden 3 or 4 times. Like, Billy Waugh fucking found that motherfucker in the Sudan in 1996 and took pictures of him, and the CIA knew where he was at, and they could have killed him, but they didn't do it.
Okay, so leaving Afghanistan, right? Like, I was my team was in Afghanistan when we shut it down, right? It was like maybe 3 days prior to Last Birds going out, which was rad because it was actually First Bat, and the Sergeant Major of First Bat at the time was Sergeant Major Spencer, which was my squad leader when I first came into Ranger Regiment.
Oh, wild!
Right?
He was
so it was like
Battalion Sergeant Major.
He was my first deployment was him as my squad leader, and then I left there as a Green Beret. I went on to Camp Alpha and ended up sitting down bullshitting with them, and they shut it down. Right, they were the last birds pulling off. They were the airfield security as they folded. And but anyway, we were there. We were my Green Beret team, my SF ODA was there, and we were advising the Afghani special operations units, and we were advising the embassy. We were like, this is going to be Taliban when we leave.
Yeah.
At one point, we were told to stop reporting negative things. My commander of my team was told, do not report that. I don't think that's true. When we said they're stealing fuel, they're stealing ammo. Yeah. They're selling the fuel. They refuel the trucks. They go back up. They sell it. He's like, I don't think that's true. I need you to report something positive, right? Because all the way down to the commander of a fucking Green Beret company, right, was enough political influence and corruption, truthfully, that they wanted to be able to brief commanders so they could have plausible deniability, so they could tell the president, we're ready to go.
Right.
Right? It's going to be Afghanistan. They're a sovereign nation. They're ready to run it. Right?
Yeah.
Because the politicians believe their own lies.
Right.
Because they're like, nah, just make this reality. The ground truth's not that. So if you're going to tell me and you're going to tell to not report things that are the ground truth, and then the news media outlets are putting out, we're leaving Afghanistan, and they're ready to take it. Right? All the news media outlets was like, Afghanistan's great. Integrated schools. And then obviously it just went to shit when we left, right? That's just straight up factual based information of the politicians don't give a flying fuck what we say and what reality is. They have an agenda that would want to leave, and they're going to tell the American population whatever the fuck they need to get what their agenda is done.
Yeah, it's sad because I was calling the ball on this 2 years before it happened. Two years before it happened, I was talking to my friend Griff, who owns Combat Flip Flops, and he was the fires officer at ACO 275, and was friends with Pat Tillman and was part of that whole thing. But he's got deep roots in the regiment, and I was a West Point grad and shit, and a fag officer. I love him anyway. But he and I had long discussions about what the realities were, because he basically based his company Combat Flip Flops off of making flip flops in Afghanistan and creating commerce and jobs and entrepreneurial, post-conflict, or not post-conflict, but conflict-based entrepreneurialism and business and commerce. And so he was deeply emotionally invested in Afghanistan, and him and I had talks about it 2 years prior to, as soon as the withdrawal and the pullout was announced, under the Trump administration, we started talking about the consequences, and I hadn't set foot in that country in a decade, and I knew
It's gonna
based on my experiences, and you had guys at the tactical level that knew, like, as soon as we leave, the Taliban's taking this shit.
You know what, though? I just want the politicians to stop fucking lying. Like, if we go into a country because we want its oil, tell me we want its fucking oil,
right?
And we're Vikings now, and we're going to go take your shit.
Correct.
Right? If we're like, Afghanistan's a bad money deal, we need to get the fuck out of there. Mm-hmm. Sorry, dudes. You're going to have to figure it out. Sweet. Don't lie to the American people and be like, they're ready to take their country over. It's all good to go.
Right.
Right? Be like, we're bailing on them.
Yeah.
They're all going to die. You know what I'm saying? Just straight up fucking tell me, man.
Yeah.
And now we can process that,
or
make decisions off that.
Yep.
But stop fucking lying to me, you know what I mean? And being like, we're going for hearts and minds when we're really going to fucking secure some investment. Mm-hmm. You see what I'm saying? Like, cool, it's an investment. Got it. There's lithium there. We want it.
But we didn't do that. That's the fucking shit thing is, like, the Chinese are like that. The Chinese are like, hey, we're going to come in here. Here's what we're going to do for you. We're going to build some roads. We'll build some infrastructure for you. Yeah. But then we're going to own the dirt for like 100 years, and we're going to mine all the lithium out of here.
It's our propaganda, though. Our propaganda is we're hearts and minds when we're not. You know what I mean? And like, that's how we justify all of our conflicts and our things that we do around the fucking world to our population, while the others are like, we need this. Right. And like, America hates us is their propaganda, which,
Well, the race is on for global resources, and anybody that doesn't understand that now is way behind the power curve. Like, or they're believing in the information operations of the campaigns that you're talking about, where they're like, "Oh, we're the good guys. Oh, hearts and minds." Like, okay, cool. You can keep telling people that, and we can keep acting under that premise, but we're not the good guys if we don't keep our word. We're not the good guys if we don't support our allies properly. No. We're not the good guys if we're not if we're continuing to be afraid of political consequences instead of doing the right thing, or stepping up and taking resources and drawing a line in the sand and saying, "Hey, we've established you guys for 20 years as a fucking sovereign country, and we've enabled you guys to have democracy and whatever the fuck that means, and free elections, and girls are in school now, and like there's actual commerce and like money moving through here now." So we're going to fucking set up some mines over here and get some lithium out of the ground. And we're taking that because you fucking owe us. And also, we're going to maybe put in an oil or natural gas well over here, and we're going to take some of that. Because
it's a return on investment, man. Yeah. Just be honest with people, man. Correct. Like, look, we're going to help these people out, but in order to fund that, there's going to be a tax on their natural resources.
Right.
Done. Cool. You want freedom? You got Taliban in your country killing the fuck out of you and your family and robbing you while you pray.
Yeah. And
forcing you to do whatever and stoning women in the street. Mm-hmm. And you're like, I want freedom. Fuck the lithium, or fuck the gold or whatever the fuck diamonds you got in, like whatever it is. You probably don't give it. Yes, absolutely. I will pay you the tax of you helping me. That should be just straight up on the board, on the board publicly. If we go in here, the way we're going to get our return on investment is doing this.
Yeah.
So the American population doesn't pay for it, and it actually ends up strengthening our economy. However, we think it's also a worthy cause. Fucking everybody would be on board, I think. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know.
I would like to see a return to us keeping our word and having more solid foreign policy, and then also projecting strength. And like, if I was running things, like, the world would be terrified to touch an American abroad because 100%. I would wipe out your fucking genetic code if you did.
Yeah. I don't know.
You kidnap an American, I will find out where they are, and I'll either recover them or their body and return them to their family, and then I will wipe out your entire genetic code.
Israel, when I was in Israel training Israelis back when I was in Ranger Regiment, it was like a little exchange thing that we did. And you know how they dealt with suicide bombers? They would figure out who the suicide bomber is and basically steamroll their entire family's fucking lineage. Right, they would destroy all their houses, lock up all of their money, take all of their bank accounts, destroy all the buildings, right? So they would end up like hitting stuff with demo big equipment. Mm-hmm. Sometimes the family's still in it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, because you might not care about your life, but your family's lineage you did.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Your kids, your children, your firstborn, whatever it was. It wasn't you that they're after. It's not that there's a repercussion on you. Your entire family's fucked.
Yeah, if you detonate yourself,
detonate yourself, your whole family will be poor and die. That's it, And in other countries, people die when they're poor, not in America, right?
Yes, they do. Yeah, there's no social programs to help anybody anywhere.
You're not going to fucking put your hand out and get the shit kicked out of you.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Correct.
Fucking some other countries, So, which was kind of beautiful. because it makes you really think twice about, like, am I going to go blow myself up? You know?
Right.
Like, am I going to do some terrorist act when I know that my entire family now is at the repercussion of my action?
Yeah.
You know?
Well, I remember when I was a kid, the like Reagan administration, and take this with a grain of salt because I was a kid and I probably didn't have my head around politics or foreign policy when I was that age. But like, I do remember watching the projection of strength and things that were happening under the Reagan administration, and the fact that he did fucking get the Russians to the table and come to an agreement and get the fucking Iron Curtain tore down. And, we accomplished some good things with foreign policy by projecting strength, you know?
You know, I kind of imagine this too, like when you talk about, like, brought the Russians to the table, right?
Yeah.
Imagine if we didn't add countries to NATO in, those Slavic countries.
Yeah.
Imagine if we ended up bringing Russia into NATO. Imagine, like, back prior to all this bullshit, when they were, like, doing a fucking, they were going through their own fall of the Soviet Union. What if, years ago, we were like, fuck it, no, let's just mend it.
Yeah.
Imagine if America and Russia were the allies of the world currently.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then Europe in the middle of that.
I don't know that we were allies, but we definitely had a more friendly situation where, like, we were traveling back and forth. Like, tourism was a thing between Russia and America. Yeah.
But imagine if we had become allies, and today that was the trend of the world as opposed to the trend of China and Russia against America and NATO. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, I think there was a point in the history of America that you're talking about that there was a reality of that.
Yeah.
There could have been a point where our tie with Eastern Europe became close.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, Gorbachev and Reagan they accomplished a lot for both the countries in terms of, like, ending, or I should say pushing pause on the Cold War, because the Cold War's like been back in full swing for a while now.
Did it ever end?
I think it did. I think it did briefly, or they wouldn't have got the Iron Curtain tore down.
Well, who's the bad guy in every movie you ever watch?
Russians. Right.
Who's like, it doesn't. It kind of stayed.
Yeah.
Right. There's still, like, an oddness to meeting a Russian. Me speaking Russian to him. There's people that are like.
Oh, people freak out about it.
Look crazy.
Yeah,
at
I've
me.
seen people like when you start speaking to them, they'll like look at you like weird.
Yeah.
You get lots of side eye.
Yeah. Well, I trained my dog in Russian because so everybody in the military and cops train their dog in German or Dutch.
Belgian, yeah.
Right? And I don't want cops in the military talking my fucking dog.
Yeah, right.
Fucking,
Yeah. Yeah, fair. So, shifting gears from foreign policy, like how it has, because now you are officially done, no strings attached. The first time we did the interview, your part one, you still had I think 10 months of your transition time left before you were officially handed your DD-214 and done. So you were you had to be a little bit more restrained in the interview. So now, how is it now that you are completely done? How do you feel about it?
That's fucking great. I mean, I don't know. It's surreal. Like, you look back and it was like, it's like a blink of an eye. You know, like, I did 20 years in the military and it feels like it was like a couple of weeks almost, kind of feels like, Deployments feel like they were a weekend, like in how the length of time it feels like when I look back. Ranger Regiment was fucking awesome. Being in SF was fucking unbelievably meaningful. Getting out of the Army through SF was fucking phenomenal. I mean, they let me do whatever I wanted to do for the last year, which I think was almost like a year and a half almost. I got back from Poland, training Ukrainians in Poland and doing some work there. And then after that, I was just, all right, man, start getting out of the military. I think I had like a year and like 4 months left or something like that. So I finished building my bus that I live in.
Which is rad. You did a great job on that thing.
It's a mobile hot rod shop. I can travel around the country, build a motorcycle anywhere, and I live in it. And it's completely off-grid, solar and everything. And, but I finished doing that, and then a movie hit me up, wanted me to be in a movie. So I ended up being a tactical advisor and an actor in a goddamn movie, for the last 6 months of me being in the Army.
That was fun.
And one of the raddest things was the day that I became a civilian, right? Like July 1st.
Yeah, we retired you on that movie on the top of the Plaza Hotel in El Paso.
But at midnight, right? Now I'm a civilian, right? At midnight, 1 minute passed. There's the man who married me and my wife, Travis Johnston, standing next to this A-list actor that's in this movie, And standing next to him is another very influential person. My last boss, my last team sergeant, is in the movie as well. And they're both standing there with rifles and fucking kit and stuff on the moment that I separate from the military. Standing inside what might be foreseeably some of my, future career.
I got a picture of it, yeah.
That's wild, right?
Yeah.
Like it was like a real holy fuck moment, you know? It's pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah, it was awesome to be there with you for that and participate in that project with you. I appreciate the invitation because that was probably some of the most fun work I've had in memory. Like, it was a great project. I really enjoyed it. The people that we had working there, like, I've talked about it on one of the other podcasts where, like, we had cream of the crop film industry people in all the respective trades working together. And the vibe was just awesome. Everybody was friendly. What was kind of great is, like, taking that special operations, like, rapport building skills and, like, incorporating that onto set.
Yeah.
And, like, building really great relationships to where, like, everybody loved us.
Yeah.
Everybody was looking around for us and when we were on set, and everybody really enjoyed our company, and it was a super fun project.
Like, I've found a lot of similarities, and I'm sure you have too, right? Yeah. Everybody that works in any career field, if they are passionate and love what they do, and they try to be the cream of the crop, the top of it, I find a lot of similarities with them and special operations dudes, right? Like your character is similar, your work ethic's the same. You don't bitch a lot. You got a kind of a dark sense of humor because you just power through things.
Right.
Right? Like there's this.
All of that was true on the set.
All of these people that were on this movie were, Bryan, the stunt coordinator, he's done every major movie probably in the last 30 years to include Bourne Identities and fucking Fast and the Furious. And all these people were like the top of every category, whether it's makeup, whether it's stunts, whether it's props, whether it's whatever. All these people are massive
camera
humans.
team.
Yeah, and they're excited to just be there working.
Yeah.
And it was rad. So like we got along. All of the guys that I brought onto the movie were people that I would vouch for. Yeah. You know what I mean? As operators, as dudes carrying a fucking gun.
Yep.
Right?
And we had a great team of people.
And all those dudes have the same work ethic, mind, thought, and they were the kings of their world, in the military and special operations. So it's like the personalities, I think, all just meshed, because success is fucking the same on both sides with what it takes to get there.
Yeah. Know? Yeah, it was an amazing project. So when did production officially wrap? It's launching next summer?
Next spring, I think.
Next spring? Okay.
Yeah, I think next spring or summer is when it's supposed to show. Yeah.
Yeah, and we signed NDAs, so we can't give details about it. But if you get on IMDb and you look at Paul Thomas Anderson's page, you might see a title on there that says "to be released soon." So that would be the movie that we worked. I think the working title is Battle of Bakhtan Cross or something like that. Yeah, it's on IMDb, so we can say that much, but we can't give any other details besides that. But it was a really amazing project.
Dude, it was super rad, and it was so interesting to be a tactical advisor for it, right? Because I'm used to training people in completion how to do a raid, right? Or how to do an ambush, or how to do whatever battle drill it might be. Yeah. When in reality, nothing mattered as far as everybody being in sync on it. What mattered was inside this fucking screen.
Yeah.
Right?
Inside
so I had
that
to get
little tiny screen.
And I'd have different extras and stuff that it wasn't working, you know what I mean? Or like black side.
Yeah.
I'm going to do a raid, I got to put a black side element out there. But does the camera see it, and does the audience even know that it's there?
Nope.
Or can you just make that through your own imagination if you understand what black side is? You know what I mean? If you don't have any tactical experience or whatnot, Right. So it's like, don't worry about what doesn't matter. Worry about what this artwork is on the screen, and does that fit reality? Yeah. Because the way the director is, he's very realistic. He wants everything to look real. Yeah. And which was awesome, because I was like,
so go just briefly describe what black side is that you're talking about, because there's going to be people out there that think that that's like black ops or black. They're not going to understand.
So black side is just like the back side of the building, let's say. So it's containment and isolation of an objective, right? So if I'm going to move into an objective, I've got black side leading an order of movement. Is generally how we did it in Ranger Regiment. Black side would move. They'd be the first to the objective. They'd move into an overwatch position, while then secondary assault would come up to white side, which is usually where we were breaching from, set up ladders, get close isolation of the objective, and then primary would come in and breach, right? But black side is picking up what everybody can't see.
Right.
And they go from isolating the objective to ended up, or containing the objective and isolating the objective at different phases of the operation, right? But that element in the movie, you don't see it because you see the guy breaching the door. Right. You see me carrying a gun. You know what I mean? Like, there's no reason to even like teach somebody that because or talk about it because it's not even in it.
Right.
And I had a hard time when I first started trying to make all this stuff real, and it was like, nah, but it's only what's here. Right.
Yep. It's only what's on screen and visible, but it's also the delicate balance of realism versus production value and entertainment.
Yeah.
Because there was things that we had to reshoot that like we did it the way you would do it in real life, but Paul didn't like that. So he was like, it doesn't look good. I don't feel like it's capturing what I want. It's not giving me good production value. We need to tweak this and that. And so there was always that fine balance of like artistic vision of the director, good production value for the audience, and realism for the tech team.
Well, I had the director actually say this to me. He's like, are we making a documentary or are we making a movie? And I was like, makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, that was the first time I'd heard that phrase, and it does make sense.
Because there's entertainment value of an artwork piece, and then there's also a documentary. Is this exactly how it would really have happened, right? Mm-hmm. And the two have to blend to a degree. Yeah. The movements, the motions, the expressions, maybe some of the dialogue, But even the dialogue has to be stripped down because you only have 30 seconds to portray X things are happening to an audience that doesn't understand what black side is. Right? Or isolation or containment or all these things. So maybe you have to change the wording that maybe doesn't sound how we said it, but it portrays what you need it to. Like a brief. You might not have all the paragraphs that you're supposed to have or hit.
Right.
You might not have said mission statement 2 times, what I mean? But the meat and potatoes isn't there for an audience that doesn't understand what they're watching, which is, it was unique. It makes me look at movies now, especially as a veteran, and you look at movies and you're like, what the fuck? We would never do that. I'm like, but does it kind of matter? Is it a documentary?
I look at movies a whole different way now. Yeah, I look at the when I watch a movie and I see something, I'm always like, oh yeah, but then I think of the crew and the grips and the lighting techs and like all of the stunt coordinators, and I think of all the things. Now when I watch movies, I think of all the 1,000 things that are happening off camera,
dude,
that nobody can see.
Tommy, I was advising on some shit, and there's like a raid in a room or something, and we're like snatching people out of beds, and there's these characters that are doing taking people out of beds, and this room is small. Right, it's like it's like the top of a garage small, and you have the grips in there, the lighting crews, the stunt people, like stunt coordinator guy watching it. You've got 3 directors, you've got a good 30 people or something crammed into a corner just outside of you. Like literally, if I would have leaned a little bit, somebody would see my shoulder while all this shit is happening. And now I'm just imagining kind of like how you're teaching psychology of light and people want to stay out of the light.
Yep.
It looked like a whole crowd was just trying to stay out of
the light,
cone of a light, and they're just like sucked in the corners. And now I imagine every movie now, especially in like small locations and stuff like that. I'm like, I wonder how many people are packed behind that door in that hallway.
Correct. Yeah, because there were times where we would do these CQB sequences, and I couldn't dig my corner. I just had to get the fuck out of the way because I would come in, pick up my corner. But there's a camera crew and a sound tech with a mic right in my corner, and I can't even like physically go to my corner. I had to like just go through the motion of coming through the door, sweeping that sector, and then I would have to fucking jump. I would literally have to hop over electrical cables that are on the floor and get into the small space in between the sound tech and a piece of furniture in these like little tiny rooms. So it was fun, but it was a learning curve for sure.
In the art of capturing realism, which is what this director likes to do, he would like us to hit it raw, you know, like just completely raw, not knowing what's in the room, which is awesome. Yeah. Right. However, he would have us kind of just hit it, but then he'd put cameras in different fucking spots.
Yeah, he would change the cameras and not tell us.
And not tell anybody. So now I'm running like trying to hit my fucking corner, and I'm like, that's a camera. You know, I can't even step out of the fatal funnel. Right. And it's It was unique, but it was cool, man. Watching some of that footage afterwards and seeing how he's gonna splice it all together, and I'm excited to see it, and it was just cool to be a part of.
Yeah, one of the scenes we did at the mission, like I came through the door and I almost hit Rachel in the face because nobody told me. Like we'd gone through and done 10 shots in that one room as it was set up the first time, and then they gave us a little break, and nobody told us that they were resetting the cameras and changing everything around in the room. So they're like, okay, let's do it again. And then we stack up, and I literally probably missed Rachel's face by like just a couple inches with my muzzle because I came in and threw my gun up, and she was standing literally right there, which shout out to Rachel, the sound girl. She was awesome, but I almost took her out. I almost muzzle striked her in the face on accident because I didn't know that they had reset the room and moved the camera. But yeah, it was a super fun project to work on. It was awesome. So can't say enough good things about the team out there. So.
Yeah, it was fun.
Yeah.
And like getting veterans into it, like I had told the director, I was like, I can train some dudes to look professional with a firearm. However, you're never going to make dudes flow with a gun like they're dancing into a room. You know, that like where your head's not attached to the rifle and you're looking for your targets and it's got this slight wave behind it. And then you're locking down on your target and then moving to the next one. Like you're not gonna capture that unless you grab some dudes that have worked professionally and at the level you want to portray with a firearm. Yeah, you know. And then some of those guys would be rusty, and we got to train them up a little bit and knock some of the cobwebs off, or teach them what some of the modern techniques are. But outside of that'd be the best. And they're like, absolutely, call your buddies, see who you can get in the movie. And I got 10 different veterans throughout my career under the movie, and
it was a great team of dudes.
Dude, and it looks like there's possibly more. You know, there's possibly like 2 other films in the foreseeable future that may be hiring me again as a tactical advisor, and I'm gonna try to move some of the same guys into the same movies. You know, and
good. We had a great time. I had a good time. I thought everything was done pretty well. The only major complaint is I'm a complete fucking gear nerd. Our weapons, Timmy did a great job with the weapon choices, I thought. It's super accurate with weapon choices. The kit could have been a little bit different, but it was good that you came in and stopped the train wreck that was about to fucking happen with the gear because they were trying to make us all wear like black digital shit.
Yeah, I came in day one. I don't even know if I had the job yet, but they flew me to LA. To basically go do a sit-down meeting with everybody and get fitted for a costume. And I think they were kind of feeling out if they actually did want to hire me, kind of, you know, almost like screen testing almost, you know. And I show up, they fit me, you know, that was great. They're like, you big motherfucker, you know. And then they realized I had to pretty much custom build, make all my shit. Yeah. And then went to a meeting, sit down with the costumer and stuff, and they whipped out like this black dyed Marine digicam, and they called it multicam. And the people that we were loosely based on portraying wear multicam, like Cry, you know, in real life. And I had pictures of it and stuff like that on my phone, and I had, you know, did my research as a tactical advisor to make sure that we'd be wearing what authentically they're loosely kind of trying to base a unit off of. Yeah. Because it's a fictional world, right? But it has some like air of reality to it. And they were like, well, I thought they wore this. And I was like, absolutely not. No, they wear multicam, this pattern, you know, and it's green and this color. And they're like, no. And they show me a picture that's at night of some dude wearing multicam, but it looks dark because it's at night. Yeah. Right? And I was like, no, that's not. That's multicam. And it's, you know, it's this color. Yeah. And the costumer's like, no, this is multicam. I grab Cry, pick it up, I pull the tag out. Multicam, you know, like multi-pass, you know, correct. And she's like, well, I'll be fucking goddamn, you know. And then Paul's like, you're gonna hate me. Like looks over at her and she's like, they were already making uniforms and costumes and stuff like that. And she's like, oh, budget just changed like $100,000, you know,
$100,000 fuck up, just not getting
some to that effect. You know what I mean? Like it was a big switch right in the beginning, and then kit. I had my body armor from work and ops cores. And, you know, I showed them as much as I could, and then again, it's a movie, not a documentary, so they just had to get it close enough, you know. Yeah. And most of the shots, you can't tell whether it's a badass, you know, Cry kit or a Eagle or, you know, whatever.
Yeah. So they had, they got it pretty. I mean, as close as they could do it. But you know, me, I'm fucking like super detail ninja with gear. So I was like, I show up and I'm like, this is a fucking Condor plate carrier. Where's my JPC? You know, like where's the JPC? Yeah. Where's the, you know, what was the other thing they had? They had our comms they could have done better on our comms. And then I think the thing that like rubbed me wrong about our helmets was that they didn't have any night vision mount. Like we had battery packs on the back, but we didn't have like G24 mounts on the front of the helmet. And then like realistically, like we did a lot of stuff at nighttime, but we didn't fucking have night vision goggles on. And I'm like, no. what the fuck is this? So yeah, there was a few things that like gear wise, like, you know, people that are going to watch the movie are definitely going to be like, I thought you guys were the fucking tech advice. Like, there's things that are out of your control.
Yeah, there's a bunch of shit
up,
that's out of your control.
You show up on set and, like, they already have a budget. Somebody already fucked up. Somebody made a bad call, and now you're wearing a Condor plate carrier instead of a JPC.
I was thinking about what was that, the last movie about, like, the downfall of America or whatever, like Civil War or something.
Yeah, that movie.
And they have, like, a helicopter come down, like, between the buildings, and it's fucking hosing a tank or something with a fucking machine gun. I forget what it was. It was completely outrageous. And you're just like, who the fuck tech advised this, right? And then at the same time, now I'm watching that, and I'm like, some director thought that would look cool. Yeah. And it's going to be in the movie now. Yeah. You know what I mean? And whether it's reality.
Yeah, he's ripping his hair. He's ripping his hair out.
His job is to advise you, and you do with that as you will, right? Because it is not your movie. You're just holding the fucking goat. You're fucking it. You know what I mean? But I'm just holding it for you. Like, hey, man, you might want to lift the leg up a little bit, you know?
That's an accurate, super accurate statement.
Right?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
But that's a Polish ambush. They wouldn't, okay, we'll do it anyway, you know?
Yep. They would never, okay. Yep. Looks great. Yeah. Awesome. Yeah. But overall, like, super fun project. But yeah, definitely another educational process in the whole, like, working as a team to accomplish the 3 goals of artistic vision and realism and production value for the audience.
Dude, I loved it though. Like, I mean, I'm an artist, right? Like, I really enjoy creative things. You know, whether it's drawing or it's building a hot rod or a motorcycle. You build a car. For me, like, building motorcycles and cars is artwork that moves, right? Yeah. And everything that I do has this creative element to it that has to be unique and custom, and, you know, it's mine. And doing the movie is the same, right? It's just another creative exploration, and I really liked being a part of it and just like watching an artist create something, being able to interject.
Well, I love that you got that opportunity straight out of coming out of the military. I think it's fucking awesome. So how did the whole thing unfold? Like, how did you fall into this opportunity, or how did this come up? How did this whole thing come about?
So there was a documentary called Retrograde, and Matt, the director of that, they filmed me and my team in Afghanistan as we shut down Afghanistan and the train up prior to it for like a year and a half or something like that.
Yeah. And
Matt ended up not using the footage of me. I guess I stood out in a unique way. Like, I'm more Ranger than I am kind of SF.
SF too. Yeah.
You know, as far as like build and probably like persona. But he said I was a really interesting person and character that he recommended that I can do something in Hollywood. And his friend, Paul, was going to make a movie. And he was like, hey, I watched Retrograde, badass. Do you know anybody that, you know, would be a good tech advisor and possibly a character in this? And he was like, absolutely. And he name dropped me.
Called you up. Yep.
And then Paul fucking called me. And then we started chatting. Conversation.
Did you know who Paul was before?
Fuck no.
Okay.
Absolutely not.
Yeah.
I had no idea who this dude was. Yeah. And then I looked him up and I was like, okay. But I don't get starstruck. I don't really give a shit about celebrities.
Yeah, me either.
They're another human, you know? And same with all of the actors that I met on this. They were fucking all famous, like A-list dudes. Like,
yeah, we had top tier A-list people on the
you know,
production.
that were like, I'm like, holy fuck. But at the same, they're just humans, man. They're just people. Yeah. And a lot of them are actors. Whatever they portrayed in a movie, they acted it. Yeah. They don't actually know how to do that. You know? They're pretending to know how to do that. Correct. You know, and they're theater major actors, right? And it was cool.
Yeah, it was.
That's how I got on it.
Yeah, that's awesome. So yeah, and for people that don't know who Paul Thomas Anderson is, he is a fantastic director in Hollywood. But he directed his two top tier famous pieces were Boogie Nights and then There Will Be Blood. Yeah.
When I think of him, those are the 2 movies that pop in my mind.
Yeah. He's done a ton of other stuff that's really good.
Done a lot of movies.
I love both of those movies. I love as well. Those are 2 of probably my favorite movies. I mean, like, who doesn't love some Roller Girl? And my favorite line at There Will Be Blood was at the end when he like bludgeons the kid with the fucking like bowling pin in his basement, and then he's like, well, his 2 favorite lines was, I drank your milkshake. I drank it up. And then he goes, I'm finished, after he fucking kills the kid with the bowling pin. Yeah, fucking awesome movie.
Fucking wild. He's a riot, dude. Yeah. Like him, he's such a unique character, and you can see his mind working and like his vision. And what I thought was really rad about working with him is he's so good at his job that he loose plans. And he just shows up. He's like, that's where the camera will be.
Yeah, he's a very much a fuck it, we'll do it live person.
And they're doing with fucking actual film too. So these cameras are massive.
Yep.
They're laying tracks down. It's not digital. They got to get this take. They have to.
Yeah.
You know, cameras and everything's like right here. You know, there was no like comic book drawing and like sketch up of like, okay, we're gonna do this angle, we're gonna do this angle, we're gonna do that angle. He's just on the fly, like, that's what I want to do.
Yeah. He's great at like impromptu stuff, but he will go through with his. What I thought was cool is like he takes his iPhone Pro Max and flips it sideways, and will go through a sequence and film it on his phone, and then he'll go back and look at it, and he'll tweak a couple things, and then that's how he sets up the shot for the real camera.
Yeah, man.
And I was like, I thought that was pretty cool.
It's pretty wild.
And then it was awesome to some of the CQB sequences we were doing to be able to like stand in the room and like watch over his shoulder on his monitor and then listen to the commentary between him and his first AD to like get to tweak whatever needed tweaked in the shot and to listen to his thought process. I thought was fucking awesome. Like I got to sit there and listen to him, you know, go through his like, oh, well, I like this, but I don't like this. And I think we could tweak this. And what do you think? Could we move this over here? Could we get a little bit more light in back here? And then could we reshoot that?
I like the dramatic way that he shoots stuff too, that there's things happening in the background, but it's a close-up of something. So he uses like a long lens that really only depicts this.
Yeah.
You know, like your face, your head, the movement of just the rifle and the optic coming in and out. And there's all the stuff going on behind it.
Yeah.
And like when we would build each shot, I would make sure people run through the finish line because sometimes that looks good. Let's continue.
Yep.
You know, and like the guys are like, we got to clear this room. But they don't know what room they're going to next, right? So it can kind of just fall on its face. But it ended up needing to be, you're going to clear this room, then you're going to go into that room, and I want you to go right. You see what I'm saying? And then he could follow with the camera as it goes that direction. But that's how he would shoot. He would shoot long lens, you know, something really dramatic, and then sometimes something would catch his eye, and they would just follow it.
Yeah.
So you had to make sure that everybody going until cut. You know?
Right.
And that was another kind of like learning thing was like, okay, we go, you run through the finish line. You know?
You keep going until you hear the word cut.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was what a fantastic experience. So, well, now what's next for you? What are you doing next? What's going on next?
Fucking buying a property west of Vegas, almost 80 acres.
Nice.
Touching BLM land, about 50 minutes west of Vegas in a little town called Pahrump. Me and my wife are going to be building a house on it and stuff like that and build my hot rods and motorcycles out of there. It's kind of where we circle back to. But one of the big things we want to do, Gretchen, my wife, is big into like yoga and plant-based medicines and energy work and all these like holistic ways to heal. And we've decided to start doing something for veterans, right? Do a nonprofit-based organization that's going to push helping vets with transition out of the military, transitioning to being a normal dude, you know, which I think is harder, honestly, than half the deployments we did, you know?
Right. And how are you doing with all of that? How are you doing with your transition?
I think I'm doing great because I've always had, like I said before, I've had like a civilian identity at the same time, you know? And like I said earlier, just because I'm out of the military doesn't mean I'm done affecting things. Yeah. I now get to affect what I want to, not what I have to.
Yeah.
Right? So I think there's a touching...
What is it? Who is it?
Kato. There's like a touching of the bear, right? There's a touching of the beast. So you got to keep connected to the tactical world, the military world, and stuff like that. And I still touch through what's going to be training, teaching, advising, doing the movies, probably a little bit contracting on the side. But I'm going to stay connected to the veteran community, and I want to help the veteran community in ways that I think that I can, that have been inspirational in some people's lives. And one of our buddies from the movie, Belford, he is actually doing a documentary about him trying to shoot himself, right? And we were getting ready for the movie, and I didn't know anything about this. He was a ranger in 1st Ranger Battalion, and he was a first sergeant when he retired, and he didn't know he had any problems. You know, he didn't think he had any mental health problems or anything wrong. And then about 6 months after he got out, he's sitting in the truck bed of his pickup truck, and he pulls the trigger on his Glock, trying to blow his face off, and primer strike, gun doesn't go off. And then he racks another round, corrects malfunction, goes to Ranger through, and a buddy calls him, saves him, and I just called him at the right time. That dude died 3 months after that from illness. Yeah. And I had no idea about this. It was the first day that he came in on the movie. We all had drinks together. We were going to go hit a titty bar. He came into my room. the hotel room. We were having drinks together. He's like, hey, man, I don't think you understand how important it is that you brought me onto this movie. I want to show you something, and I'm going to leave the room. I'll come back about 15 minutes. It was the intro to this documentary he's doing that I didn't even know he tried to shoot himself. You know, he comes back in and he's like, it's really important for us veterans to still feel relevant, right? To feel like somebody believes in us with a gun, right?
Yeah.
That we're still a warrior to somebody. And I was like, holy fuck. You know what I mean? There's that relevancy piece for a dude transitioning out of the military when they went from being advising embassies and fucking taking terrorists off the battlefield or, flying to other countries and doing all kinds of monumental shit and turning into not that. You know what I mean?
Right.
What is your identity after that? His whole identity was Ranger, and he didn't realize that he had a problem there. And so he was talking about relevancy, and I was like, there's a lot to be said about making sure vets still feel relevant. So part of what I'm going to do on this property is while we do this holistic kind of medicine stuff and therapy and whatnot, I'm also going to have a shooting range, and I'm going to train them. So part of it is going to be, hey, man, I don't know, you did ayahuasca yesterday. We're going to shoot some guns today.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I'm going to show you what the new stuff is we're doing, and we're going to feel manly and do whatever and get our man on, and then go back, and now we're going to do some therapy or where you can go try out something else, that maybe can work. And then at the end of the day, we're going to sit around a fucking fire west of Vegas and be like, fuck you think, man? Is it helping, or is it just being around brothers that's helping, And I think that would help a lot of people that I know,
Yeah, no, I agree with that. It's I'm excited. Gretchen's already informed me that you and I get to be fucking guinea pigs. So I think it's gonna be great to get to play with the recipe and get it right. But yeah, the transition piece, hardest thing that I ever fucking did. I can't explain how crestfallen you feel when that reality fucking comes up. Where one day you were fucking advising you were giving a fucking program brief to the Assistant Secretary of Defense, for low intensity special operations conflicts, and then you're going out and executing missions. You're doing ops and intel briefing with the CIA at the fucking annex. You're going to functions at the fucking embassy, and you're doing all these things, and then the next thing you're and you're running with the top tier fucking warriors on the planet, and then the next day you're sitting in your living room watching fucking Ren and Stimpy, trying to figure out what the fuck you're going to do next with your life, because it's all done and it's over with.
Who the fuck am I now?
Yeah, who the fuck am I now? Yeah.
Because nobody cares.
Yeah, nobody cares.
Nobody gives a flying fuck what you did in combat. Nope. And nobody you couldn't explain it to them because they wouldn't understand.
No.
Right?
Yeah.
Just speaking to anybody, half the people, I'd probably say almost 70% of the people I talk to that don't know me, don't know my history, probably think I'm lying. When I say I was a Green Beret, I was in a Ranger Regiment, I deployed 16 fucking times, and I've probably done 1,000 raids in real life, on people's houses. And we're somewhere in the ballpark of that number, and I wasn't counting all of them, but we were doing 190 days at points, and 16 deployments, fucking 13 of those in Ranger Battalion. Just do the math. I did a lot of work, and sometimes I can't even really fathom it. It's like, holy shit, I did a lot of work,
Yeah.
And you tell somebody that, they don't even know the magnitude of that. The average person does not understand the magnitude of that special operations, it's weird. It's strange. You went from being a hero to your family to whoever else to you're the guy that goes and puts the trash out. Right. You need to go to a 9 to 5 now.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a sobering fucking moment, and people don't. Yeah, there's no way they can comprehend. The other side of that coin is imagine going to work every day and kissing your family goodbye, and that might be it. You might get your fucking face blown off going to work that day. Your job, you could literally die on every project that you work on with that job. And so what we were talking about earlier in regards to, PTS involved in, post-traumatic stress with regard to, I have the same thing with you with, I don't feel bad about the fucking shitbags I killed.
No.
The violent shit that I did, the fucking dudes that I, blew their fucking face off, I don't feel bad about that. I didn't lose any sleep over that. I did have some stress, and I did have some survivor guilt over dudes that got killed that I mentored, and I grew from day one of them coming off the bus till they were a team leader or a squad leader themselves. I did lose a lot of sleep about those guys getting killed, because it was two situations that I specifically remember were situations that I felt like I should have been there for, but I volunteered to go be the FID L&O and run the fucking FID element for the regiment. You know, I chose to leave my, you know, company and go do that. And in doing so, I left those two guys in the charge of, you know, dudes, staff NCOs and officers that didn't have the experience and shouldn't have been making the call on what was happening, you know, when bullets started flying back and forth. And, you know, two Marines that I loved dearly and mentored that were studs lost their lives. And I carried survivor guilt around with me for a really long time. And then, you know, through therapy and plant medicine and, you know, counseling and hanging out with the boys and chopping it up and talking back and forth, like coming to the realization, and fucking hate to sound cliche, but, you know, it goes back to like, you know, Eric Bana's character Hoot in fucking Black Hawk Down. He's like, that's war. You can't explain why something's going to happen on a given day, and there's nothing you can do to control it. So stop fucking trying to, you know, punish yourself over something that was way out of your control.
Yeah.
And it took me a long time.
Stop worrying about what you can't affect.
Yeah, it took me a long time to come to terms with that. And then the other thing that was difficult was what we talked about this morning before we, you know, came on was, you know, it was PTS is more driven from the stress and anxiety of like, if I don't make a good decision, people could die.
Yeah.
If I don't fucking perform at a high level, I'm going to lose my place in this organization or environment that I have worked my ass off to get to where I'm at. And then not having, so like that whole physiological response of your body being at a super high stress level that you don't even realize or that you don't even feel until you're out of that environment. And now you're sitting there and you're like, you have anxiety about something, but you don't even know what the fuck it's from.
You don't know what it's from.
You don't know what it's
right?
from.
Like I felt like I was going to be fired every day.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like I was in special operations for 20 fucking years, right? Running the highest level I could fucking run my entire career. And I was constantly operational. I never once sat down. Mm-hmm. You know, I taught at pre-ranger for a period of time just because I was waiting to get into the next thing. Right. You know, and I had to like make a move, and I ended up moving over to SF. But outside of that, I mean, I literally ran the entire time. So in that, it was like staying at the highest level I possibly could. Physically, my ability with a firearm, my mental aptitude towards whatever I was pushing myself towards, whether it was maneuvering elements in combat or if it was SF, you know what I mean, unconventional warfare. Like I had to maintain a very high level so that I was still operational. And I was value added authentically. And I would protect my boys' lives in combat, right? And stopping that, you're like, you know what I mean? Like your adrenaline from that is still there, but now the job's not there, and you're like, why am I worried about losing my job? I don't even have that job. You know? Like, I'm missing something here, you know? And I think there's stress, post-traumatic stress, if you will, just from that, almost more so for me than there is of anything else. I don't care that I killed people. My boys that died, I fucking honor them, you know? Miss them, but I honor them, you know what I mean? And, it's more the stress of like the job running at that level for that fucking long.
Well, and I think you don't feel it at the time because you're driven to perform.
Because you're in the game.
And you're in the game. And
you don't have stress about football when you're playing football.
No.
Right?
Correct. Yeah. So there's the momentum aspect of like you're in motion constantly, and then all of a sudden it's over and you're sitting there, and when that momentum's gone is when you start feeling the effects of that anxiety, and you have no idea like what to do with it, where to put it, why it's even there. And, you know, it's something that, you know, guys that are getting out, don't realize what they're up against and what they're going to have to navigate when they're done, and that reality fucking smacks them in the face.
We can only speak to our demographic of people, though, that operated, that did work, that did kill people, that did fight, that worked at a high level, that were operating in that way. You know what I mean? Because I'm not talking about a dude who just fixed cars for a while that were Humvees. And well, I don't know what level you're working at, but I mean, you have a place in the military and you did serve your country, but it's a lot different when you're kicking doors for fucking 20 years. You know what I'm saying? And then instead of being an S-shop clerk. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like,
correct.
There's a difference there. And those are the people that I'm hoping that I can help. You know, when I do my things, like people that have a similar come from a special operations background, maybe are just transitioning and don't even realize they had a problem. You know what I mean? And they're like, fuck, man, I think I do actually have a problem. But they don't want to talk about it. Because if you admit that you have a problem, you're a bitch. You know what I mean? Especially mental in those worlds, right? So it'd be cool to just be able to like sit down and be like, well, I had to struggle with this. I didn't realize it was going to hit me, but this is kind of how it hit me for me. You know what I mean? And then have a bunch of guys kind of a like-minded situation like that, you know?
Yeah, when there's when nothing's at stake and you're not going to get pulled off of a team and sent to fucking, the mental hospital to fucking get evaluated. The unit psych's not going to be like, hey, sorry, I can't clear you for duty because you broke down crying and fucking, for whatever reason, and it's why guys. It's another reason too why guys, the anxiety of performance and then bottling all that up, and then if there were things that bothered you, and you have to just bury it and compartmentalize it because the last thing you want to do is lose your station on a team that you've like worked your ass off to get to where you're at.
So like my ex cheated on me, right? Like my ex-wife. And I ain't fucking mad at her now. It's totally fine. Like me and her talk. And I'm not really pissed at all. I don't really give a shit. We weren't right for each other. However, when I went on that deployment, I found out like 2 weeks before I had left for deployment. And I was like, don't care, got to compartmentalize this because ain't nobody going to lead my boys in combat except me. Mm-hmm. And we were in the thick of it at that point, right? We got multiple firefights that trip. I'm really happy I was there. I wasn't going to take one of my team leaders and make him prematurely become the squad leader when we had trained him as a team leader, and he needs to maneuver his team, not the squad.
Right.
I need to maneuver the fucking squad. And my house problems don't fucking matter in the grand scheme of these boys dying in combat.
Correct.
Right? So I stomached all of my shit, didn't process any of that, and wasn't really processing it well back then anyway. I was a fucking pretty immature dude at that point.
Yeah.
Anyway, went on deployment, come back, need to deal with that. And I tell my my platoon sergeant, I was like, hey, man, I got to take block leave because I got to deal with this. We're going to go divorce. And he's like, yeah, you can take block leave when everybody else does, which is a month later after we do airfield seizure. And I'm like, the fuck? Now I'm struggling because I'm in it,
Yeah.
I'm back in my house that she lived in. You know what I mean? Like, this is hitting me now every day. And I ended up getting drunk, showing up to work late, and Article 15, restriction, loss of pay, fucking didn't get to go on block leave because I was fucking I got an Article 15, and I was on restriction, and then they sent me to fucking jump master school. Right?
Okay.
So, and then I lost my promotable status 2 weeks after I got back from a deployment where we were in like heavy firefights.
Yeah.
And I had a problem. And every time you'd go on a deployment, you're gonna come back from deployment. The chaplain comes around and there's like a brief, like, hey, if a guy's having problems, they come back from deployment, they're drinking too much, or you see him having a problem, tell somebody. Go ask him what's going on, or whatever. As opposed to that, they were like, you fucked up. Took me into an office, wrote me a fucking Article 15 while I was going through a fucking divorce.
Yep.
And then sent me down the fucking rabbit hole. Better fucking shut up and color, right? Nobody gives a fuck, right? Mm-hmm. Those were some of the worst leaders I had ever worked for in my life.
Yeah.
One was Nash. He was a Sergeant Major Nash now, I believe. I think he last was a Sergeant Major at Carson, and he's the biggest piece of shit I think I may have known in the military. He fucked over multiple people to include a fake amnesty period on one of the deployments where he had a bunch of dudes lay out stuff. If they had nunchucks before coming back from deployment, he RFS'd all of them afterwards.
Oh, wow.
That is a fake amnesty period, right? This dude is a massive piece of shit. But that's just an example, right, of like, shut the fuck up and color. And the majority of us are scared to say we have any problems, and we want to just keep powering on, and we won't take a knee. Mm-hmm. But you're out now, or you're transitioning, or it's time to fucking deal with some of that shit for the betterment of you and your family and who you can be, and, move forward. So I'm hoping, I know we can help, even if it's just bullshitting. You know what I mean?
Correct. Yeah. I think one of the biggest takeaways was just being back with the boys again, like working on the movie set, like having a collective team of dudes that like all are cut from the same cloth and have similar life experience and similar operational experience, like, was awesome. It was cathartic to hang out with the boys, you know? So that was one of my biggest takeaways. I mean, it's why I'm excited to get ready to go on this next job that we're going to go on, because we're going to have the dream teams getting reunited again. So
dude, it's just going to keep circling back.
Yeah.
And then I might be, that's next movie that's coming back out. I think I'm going to be a tax advisor on it in the next year or two, and we're going to be on my property in Vegas training up for the fucker.
I love it. It'll be awesome.
Yeah.
Sweet, man. Well, what do you want to close out with? This has been a good interview. What do you want to leave the audience with?
I don't know. Fucking stay motivated, and life's beautiful, and you never know what's going to happen. You know what I mean? Like, I fucking magically somehow found my way into a movie that I never thought I would ever fucking be on, and it's just crazy how great things can turn out.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I agree. If you're open to it.
If you're open to it, you just got to ride that wave, man.
Yeah.
You've got opportunity knocking on your door, go take it.
Did you feel uncomfortable about the prospect of doing it, or were you excited? Were you like, oh, fuck, I don't know if I want to do
There was
that?
points where I was like, these guys are going to realize who the fuck I am and fire me at some point.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, this dude's just a fucking heathen monster.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, it's fucking, he's just some savage.
I love it.
He's just been murdering people for 20 years.
Yeah, it's good. Yeah, it's good.
I'm like, wait, hold on. This guy's acting?
Yeah, right. I mean? Yeah.
Like, I don't know. Yeah, I was definitely like a little bit of like imposter syndrome at points. Like,
yeah. So
really?
it did get you. So would you say the acting part got you a little bit out of your comfort zone? Because you
a
are
little
you're a supporting actor in the
yeah. I mean, it was uncomfortable because I had no coaching really either.
Yeah.
It was just do what you do. I'm like,
yeah, just be yourself on camera.
there was like no script really for me. I just kind of made up all my shit, and yeah, it was a little wild. You get used to it, I mean, I've done a lot of shit with like Gas and Garters and the company that I have. I've been in front of cameras and stuff, and I'm not like the camera itself doesn't make me nervous, but being on camera in a movie that millions of people are going to see. You know what I mean?
Next summer it's going to be a
And
blockbuster.
I don't even have fucking, like, I had to make all my own lines.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? Like, we're like, okay.
Yeah.
And then I didn't really get a lot of direction as far as like, okay, be sad, be happy.
Yeah.
You look this way now. You know what I mean? It was just, all right, go do shit.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, it's just improv day.
Yep. It is.
And which, a lot of it turned out all right. I think it turned out cool.
It turned out great. I'm excited for it. The cool. Where can people find you at?
I've got 2 websites, gasandgarters.com. That's where I like build motorcycles out of. We're gonna have merchandise on there. I'm rebuilding the page right now. And outside of that, Limitless /corp. It's on my website. You can find me on there for like training, consulting, stuff like that.
Nice. Awesome, man. Well, let's wrap this up. I thank you so much for doing part 2, and look forward to all of our future projects, man. Thanks for being such a fucking fantastic friend, man. I value you.
You too.
And Gretchen. So looking forward to more. All right, wherever you're at on the globe, thanks so much for joining us. Patreon, thank you so much to the patrons that continue to support us along the way on this journey, and we look forward to getting more guests on at the close of the year. So, stay tuned. We've got more coming, and we'll check you guys out next time on the Low No Limit Podcast. Peace.